Hey guys, this is Hunter Levine, and thank you for listening to the Captain's Collective podcast, brought to you by Skinny Water Culture, Florida Fishing Products, Turtle Box Audio, Costa Sunglasses, and Orvis Fly Fishing. Today we're back in Costa Rica, hanging out with Tosh Talbot, who's not only a second-generation guide, but also a competitive surfer. And in this podcast, Tosh shares with us about how his career as a competitive surfer is helping shape his career as a guide. Tosh also shares about his love for yo-yo fishing and why he's so drawn to chasing after roosterfish, and how at 16 years old, he began his business out of kayaks. I really hope that you guys enjoy this conversation. If you're loving this podcast, please help us out by subscribing and sharing it with your friends. Thank you for listening. This is the Captain's Collective. All right. Well, hey, Tosh, first and foremost, thanks for fishing with us this morning. What an amazing day on the water. We were out in kayaks and lift paddle boards and cruising off through the sunrise. And man, it was just the beginning of the day was one of the coolest starts to the day that I've ever had. I mean, had the Turtle Box playing. I know you were vibing with the Moana soundtrack. And, it's really cool to be able to chase after such an amazing game fish and to be able to have like a turtle box, so fully waterproof, just on the front of it, and everybody's kind of getting to putt around together, so you still get that, kind of the community aspect where you're talking, but you can kind of venture out. And I was really excited coming into this trip to have the opportunity to do something I've never done before, which is targeting such a large game species in kayaks and paddle boards. And just so grateful for your time this morning, and really appreciate you making some time today to sit down with me as we kind of wrap up the day and get to know just a little bit about your story.
Yeah, today was super fun. Although we didn't catch too many fish, it was a productive day.
Yeah, man. And, I think too, with the expectations of the group, people realize that, 5 or 6 guys come out. It's not like every single person's going to catch a fish, but just the excitement of watching Charlie today catch a fish, and everybody got to see it and come over and watch the whole process. And I loved getting to see kind of the way that you have built a business, which I want to get into, that is, I think, really unique, to be able to go out, catch bait. You can do, top water, you can jig, you can troll a live bait. Tell us just a little bit about your setup right now and how you run your business as a guide.
Yeah, so right now I have about 8 kayaks. I have about 3 pedal kayaks, so are a little bit more comfortable for fishing, like anglers who are a little bit better. Mm-hmm. And then I have my personal kayak, which has a built-in live well into it, and then a couple other kayaks that are regular paddle kayaks. I just upgraded them a couple years ago. Super happy with it. It's a local company from San Jose called Mundo Kayak. Mm-hmm. And yeah, they provide really good products, and super happy with them.
Yeah, so I know that you started your kayak fishing business at 16, which is amazing because so many 16-year-olds have dreams of making a living on the water, doing what they love. And I want to talk more about your business, but before that, tell me about your childhood, growing up, your relationship with your father, because I know you have a cool story there, and how all of that accumulated in you being here in Corcovado, surfing and running a rooster fishing operation.
Yeah, growing up here has been super unique experience. I mean, I did go back to Canada to go to school for a complete year. Mm-hmm. I remember crying myself to sleep sometimes, because I just missed the surfing, missed fishing, just missed this place so much. And mm-hmm. I mean, Costa Rica is just such a unique country, and there's nowhere in the world like it. I mean, I've traveled, well, not over to Europe or Australia or anything, but traveled all America, and there's no place in the world that I have seen that's like Costa Rica. So it's super unique.
Yeah.
Beautiful. I mean, the fishery is insane. We have some of the best waves in the world. I mean, you really couldn't ask for much more.
Yeah, so you weren't born in Costa Rica, right? Your dad's
I was born in Costa Rica.
Tell me about, so your dad's grew up in Bermuda.
Yeah.
But tell me about like how your family kind of ended up here, because you have a cool story there too.
Right. So my parents actually met in the Caribbean side of Costa Rica. They're both Canadian. My dad's dad was from Bermuda, so that's where I get my skin color from. And they actually came down here. My dad came down here for a fishing trip, and he was on the Caribbean side, and that's where he met my mom. And my dad actually came down here to Puerto Jimenez for another fishing trip, and he fell in love with it and started building his own business, running a fishing charter, and ended up buying a property and building a house. And yeah, it's just super unique growing up here in such an amazing place where I live literally a minute from the beach, where I can just walk down, go for a surf. I mean, there's not many places in the world you can go for a surf by yourself or walk down to the beach and catch yourself lunch or dinner, and it's just super unique.
So where did the love for fishing kind of first start for you? What really lit you on fire?
Definitely my dad. I mean, he's addicted to fishing.
Yeah.
Is the truth. So, I mean, just growing up watching him fish all the time, and I started doing it by myself, and that's why I started doing the kayak fishing. And I don't know, it's just a passion of mine.
What was the first kind of memory of fishing with your dad as you think back that you have?
That is a tough question. I do remember glimpses of Bermuda when I was a younger kid, and also fishing here off the beaches with him. But I don't have that many memories. I fished so long that it's hard to.
Is there one that's more meaningful, like in your childhood, that you like a photo at your house that you look back on and you're like, wow, what an amazing memory as a kid? Anything like that?
There's actually quite a few pictures of like my dad and myself that are like super meaningful. I know there's one of him like holding a rod and me upside down when I was like a foot tall, and
yeah.
There's so many pictures that I can't even like think about.
Do you remember your first roosterfish?
Ooh, I remember my first roosterfish on a hand line.
Yeah. Tell me about it, man.
First roosterfish on the hand line, it was off the point. I think it was about 30 pounds. It was
wow.
Super nice fish. And yeah, it was a beautiful fish. I have a picture of it.
Did you grow up handline fishing or?
Yeah, I'd always had a passion for handline fishing. It was, I don't know, it's more of a, it's about the simplicity, and how difficult it is. I feel like nowadays we get into like so many like advanced settings, and the reels are so complicated, whereas like we used to just have a yo-yo, which is a hand line, and line and a hook, and I don't know, just the simplicity of it. I was drawn to it, and
yeah,
always loved the challenge.
So I don't know much about handline fishing. Talk me through kind of the general overview of how that looks. So you just free line out a live bait, and
yeah, so it depends. I mean, with a yo-yo you can use lures also. It's a little bit more difficult. Definitely have to learn the technique of like being able to cast it out. I mean, it's not as easy as a rod and reel. You really have to learn the technique. Especially the hardest part of handlining is reeling in and learning how to use the drag, because obviously with the hand line you don't have a set drag like a fishing reel, or so you have to learn to be able to use your thumb as the drag, or you're just going to break fish off.
And so talk to me about you're growing up here, you're fishing with your dad. Obviously you guys are doing a wide variety of species. Talk to me about 16-year-old Tosh starting a business. What did that season of life look like, and what led you to make that jump? Because there's a lot of kids, and I talked with Tom last night about this, in this area that they're limited in their ability to see all the potential outcomes for their life. They're limited in seeing certain role models. They're limited in basically being able to see all the different opportunities and potential they have. So talk to me about 16-year-old Tosh and kind of making that jump to start your own business, and kind of how all that unfolded.
Yeah, so when I was 16, my dad helped me buy my first 2 kayaks. I had them in front of my house and Playa Preciosa. It was just a little bit more difficult to do tours out of there because there's a lot of waves and not as consistent fishing. So, I mean, I did it based off of passion. I mean, obviously I wasn't going to run a fishing boat at 16. So the kayaks was just a cheaper option. I enjoyed doing it. It was just super simple, and I was good at it. I loved taking people out in the kayak, and kayak fishing is just like something super different. than a boat. Like, you don't have an engine. You're like, you feel more in tune with nature. It's quiet. So it's super different, and it's cool to like bring people and take people out who haven't done it before, especially, and they're like, wow, this is incredible. Like, I have I'd say 80% of the people that I take out kayak fishing that haven't gone kayak fishing are like, oh, I'd do this like way over a boat. I love this so much.
Yeah. It definitely feels more intimate. You're closer to the water. You know, when you're fighting a fish, you're getting pulled around by it. So you can actually feel the power of the fish a little bit more than if you were in a skiff or if you were in a bay boat. I definitely think, too, you were talking about how quiet it is. It's one of the things that I loved was, you know, it was just the scenery here, the mountains around us. You know, we're sitting here on the beach by a little patch of mangroves. We got some clouds kind of covering the mountains, but all of that. And I think that because of how quiet and calm and truthfully slow, you're moving pretty slow, it allows you to take in a little bit more of the beauty. For you, is there something that you feel like no matter how many times you do it, it still kind of takes your breath away when you go out, or have you got a little used to it all?
I mean, usually we target roosterfish, but I mean, it's the ocean. It's Costa Rica. You can see anything. I've seen wahoo out here. There's been sailfish spotted out here. So, I mean, fishing, you can literally see anything. So, I mean, yeah, I've definitely been breathtaking before.
What is the craziest thing that you've seen out here?
I think probably the craziest fish that I've seen out here was, I'm pretty sure it was a wahoo. It was definitely a darker fish, longer fish, just looked more pelagic. And, I mean, it's just crazy to see that. I mean, wahoo you're going usually offshore for. I mean, but I'm not surprised because I caught a sailfish on a hand line in Mogos, which is about, I think it's like 10 miles into the Gulf. So like at the very back of the Gulf, I caught a sailfish in 20 feet of water. So wow. I honestly am not surprised. For you,
what is the biggest challenge of trying to run this type of business here?
Well, for me right now is definitely like time. With the surfing world, I am traveling a lot, and I mean, I love kayak fishing, but I just sometimes don't have time because I have to be training for surfing and I'm traveling. So that's probably the most difficult thing for me.
Yeah. Do you feel like when you're, you know, as a kid who grew up here and you're still young in your career, do you find it challenging to manage so many people who are traveling from so far? Is there a certain pressure with that you feel, or do you feel pretty natural in it?
I definitely feel pressure when I take people out fishing. It's just, I mean, as your job is to provide your clients with a good time for the most part, and with hopefully fish. I mean, me doing my business, what I've learned is the most important thing is keeping clients happy, no matter if you do catch fish or you don't. But obviously there is that little bit of pressure when you go out, especially with people who do know how to fish. I've taken people out fishing who have never fished before, and they go out and they catch a 40-50 pound roosterfish in the first 5 minutes, and you're just like, oh.
Yeah.
And then you take people out like yourself or other people who are like traveled the world and like put a lot of money and they put a lot of effort into catching that fish, and like you work hard for it and they don't get it. It's just like, it's a lot more rewarding when you get somebody who appreciates a fish like that, whereas you have a client who maybe has never fished before or don't really appreciate a 40-50 pound fish.
I wanted it. It's funny, it's like I wanted it really bad. You know, I'm thinking like, oh, I'm gonna like do different speeds and different depths and da-da-da-da-da, and then our camera guy catches one and he's like, I look over, he's on his phone before it happened. And you know, that's part of the fun of it, right? Is like there still is that element of right place, right time. And you were explaining that, you know, with these fish every day, it's a little bit new, you know, like they don't always like sit on the same points. It's not all about like making the right cast, or it's just about a little bit of luck of being in the right place at the right time. Can you talk a little bit about the approach that you take? Like walk us through a typical day on the water and kind of how you think about it chasing roosterfish and kayaks.
Yeah, so in the kayaks, typical day, I usually start out by trying to look for some bait. Typically, most of the time, we catch the roosters with live bait. So sometimes it can be a little bit difficult to find the bait. But, I mean, today we managed to find the bait. It was just hard to get that rooster bite. So we spent a lot of time looking for that bite. In the end, we ended up getting 2 good bites, and we managed to catch 1.
Yeah.
Um, but I mean, with the roosterfish, they're moving. There's a big drop off here, and they're constantly moving. So it's just kind of find the area where they're hanging out in, what depth they're in. I mean, that's changing every day. So
Yeah. Yeah, and you were saying, I mean, is the predominant way pretty much always trolling, and then sometimes you can get them on a popper, sometimes you're jigging for them. What are your options every day that you go out?
Yeah, so I mean, it obviously is fishing. It depends on the day, depends on the weather, but most of the time I like to have a live bait out the back and either be casting jigs, dropping jigs down to the bottom, casting poppers. Roosters love poppers, so you can cast those along the shoreline, and you have a pretty good chance of hooking up to one.
Yeah, and then what's the biggest roosterfish that you've caught so far, or a client?
So the biggest roosterfish that I've had a client catch in a kayak was 60 pounds.
Wow.
And the biggest roosterfish I've personally caught was around 55, 60 pounds, but on super light tackle, like 3,000 size reel, my little circle hook that ended up breaking in half. So
how did you catch him with the circle hook break in? Just broke in half once you landed him? Or
no, it
just was stuck in enough?
It was
That's crazy.
right in the perfect spot where it didn't. Same thing with, it was actually super weird. Both that roosterfish and the sailfish I caught in the hand line both had a broken hook, and I managed to catch them.
That's crazy. All right, sorry about that. We are in the rainforest, so we had to make a little bit of a location shift here, try to hide from some of this wind. Tell me more about surfing, because I know you have a love for surfing and not just fishing. How did that form for you, and how does that help you today, or what does that mean in your life today?
Yeah, surfing to me is just, I don't know, I just have such a passion, and just like fishing, like every day is different. It's the same with surfing. Every wave is different. So it's super just unique. And I mean, traveling the world and being able to experience new cultures and meet new people, I feel like the surfing community really brings people together. And I mean, I met like all my best friends through surfing and meet super cool people. So I mean, I don't know, it's a super cool community, and yeah, I honestly don't know what I'd do without it.
Yeah. What is the competition? Because earlier today you mentioned that you're involved in competitive surfing. For those who maybe aren't really familiar with what that looks like, can you tell me how that factors in for you?
Like,
what is competitive surfing? Like, how do the competitions work, organizations, etc.?
Yeah, so I surf in 3 different organizations / associations: Nationals, which are here in Costa Rica, Latin America Association, and then the QS. The QS is the biggest one. That's where I travel. I'm in the North American region, so everywhere from Panama up to Canada surfs in that region. Definitely, I mean, it's all the best surfers in North America, so it's definitely a lot harder. And from there, the goal is to qualify to the Challenger Series, which you take the top 7 best surfers from North America. So, I mean, it's a lot of surfers that compete in. It's over 100 surfers that compete in that association, and it's all the best surfers from Panama to Canada. So, it's very difficult. And then from the Challenger Series, where they take 7 from the QS, they take 10 from the Challenger Series, which is regional. So you have North America, South America, Australia, and you have all these countries that compete against each other to make the CT, the championship tour.
So do you compete at events, or are you uploading videos and photos? Like, how does that work?
Yeah, so I believe there's like 7 or 8 events per year that we have to travel to. Most of them are in the United States, like Virginia, California, Florida. So it is a lot of traveling, very expensive. Yeah.
What's harder, surfing or fishing?
Surfing competitively is definitely harder, just mentally. I mean, you go and compete. I mean, you can travel all the way to, I've traveled all the way to Barbados before, and in a contest you get 20 minutes to surf a heat, right? So you're surfing with 3 other competitors, and 2 people move on from that heat, and they're scoring your 2 best waves in that heat. So they're scoring you based off of how radical you surfed and how smooth and speed, power, flow. So there's a lot of factors into it, and when you travel across the world and you go and you lose the first 20 minutes and you're out, it's just very mentally stressful, and
Mhm.
I'm it puts you through a lot. Like, can I actually do this? And whereas fishing, I feel like, is a little bit more relaxing. I mean, obviously, sometimes you lose a fish, you're just
Yeah, yeah.
over it. Especially when it's like a PB or something. But yeah, I definitely say surfing is a little bit.
Yeah, so there's a huge overlap. I mean, I've had a lot of people on here who love surfing, love fishing, and to a lot of people, maybe they would see those as, well, you got to kind of pick one or the other, or if you surf a bunch, it's not going to make you as good of a fisherman, or vice versa. For you, explain how those two things complement each other in your life.
Yeah, so I mean, being able to surf and fish, and I mean, it just kind of allows me to enjoy both at the same
Mm-hmm.
time. If I get bored of one, I can go to the other one. And no, I mean, if I had just surfing, I feel like I would get bored of it a lot faster and not be able to go back to the other one. Whereas, like, with having fishing, I can go fishing, and if I get bored of it, I could go surfing. It's just
Mm-hmm.
nice having both to be able to, like,
Yeah.
do.
Is there anything that surfing has taught you or shaped you as a fisherman?
I'd say definitely patience. I mean, both of them, you need patience. I mean, obviously fishing, it's fishing. You go days that you don't have a bite. You have days that it's awesome. Same with surfing. You have days where you gotta be patient, wait for a good wave, or the waves are really bad and you're having a
Mm.
difficult time. And you'll have days where you're getting barreled and having the best session of your life. So I mean, they're similar in both in different ways.
Was there one that you fell in love with before the other?
I mean, I definitely started fishing at a younger age than surfing. Um, I'd say I do a little bit more surfing now since I'm doing it competitively. But I honestly enjoy them pretty equally.
Something Tom wrote a great chapter on you in his book, Sweet Golf, and he said that you had a simpatico outlook on life. Did I say that right?
Yeah.
Is Explain what that means.
I mean, I just look at life as, like, just enjoy every moment of it, you know? Like, I live in such an amazing country and amazing people around me, and it's just enjoying minute by minute.
Where did that come from? Have you always felt that way? Was that modeled? Did you learn it?
I feel like going to Canada for part of the year definitely opened my eyes to how great of a life I actually do live. And especially traveling the world too and seeing, I mean, I've traveled a lot of cool places that have different cultures and
Mm-hmm.
are super cool, but there's just no place like Costa Rica. And I love my country, and I wouldn't do anything. Yeah.
Yeah. So tell me about, you're young, you're at the beginning of your career in so many ways. Who do you look up to? Who inspires you and why?
Definitely look up to my dad in the fishing world. Yeah, I mean, he's taught me everything I know. There's fishing from how to cast a rod to knots to, I mean, every knowledge that I know. I mean, obviously, I learned stuff on my own and spending a lot of time on the water. And I mean, in the surfing world, there's obviously Kelly Slater. He's the greatest of all time. He's won 11 world titles. So, I
Mm-hmm.
mean, obviously, to get to that level and be able to compete against the best of the world, that's one of my goals. So, I'd love to do that one
Well,
day.
so when you look at Kelly Slater, what are things that you see in him that you're trying to bring into your own life?
So, with Kelly Slater, I feel like he has the mentality of the greatest of all time, which I believe is why he became the best, is because even though he won one world title, two world title, three titles, it was never enough for him. I mean,
Mm.
he just fell off tour this year, and he's, I believe, 53 or 52.
Mm.
So, I mean, to see him competing against the best in the world competing against people who are 20, 25, it just shows that the mental game that he has proves a lot in his surfing. So
Mm.
I'm trying to be able to have a stronger mental game in my surfing.
And so, what does a strong mental game in surfing and fishing look like in your mind? There's obviously patience, but
Definitely patience, but just, like, kind of believing in yourself and, like, knowing that you can do it.
did you watch the documentary Rise Generation?
No, I haven't watched it yet.
Oh man, it's so good. It's got him and Shane Dorian, Jack Johnson's in there, and I'm not a surfer. I don't surf. I'd be interested in it, but it's not something that is very popular in my area. You have to travel. We don't have big breaks and stuff. But one of the things that I love about surf culture is their appreciation for life. I think that's, there's like an intensity and at the same time a slowness
Yeah.
and an ability to relax and have kind of in the dog hunting world with bird dogs, it's called non-switch, I think that's a big thing that inspires me when I watch those guys.
I think something like in the surfing world that like for me is something that I love is when you're surfing and you're riding a wave, everything else in the world just disappears. Like all you're thinking about is in the moment, what you're doing on that wave, and nothing else.
When you look at, your life off the water, what does that look like? What does that factor into kind of how you do things with surfing and fishing? Do you pretty much surf and fish every single day, or do you have things that you love that are important to you off the water as well?
I mean, the ocean to me is everything. So, I mean, I try to spend as much time fishing or surfing as I can. Obviously, being able, like, competing, and it's super important to me to be surfing every day. So, I try to spend at least 3-4 hours a day in the water surfing. And I mean, when I can, I mean, I'll go days where I'll just surf for 6 hours, and in the afternoon, I'll go fishing for a couple hours. So, I mean, it's honestly like the best life.
When you think about, so you're 23?
19.
19. I was
Yeah.
way off. All right. So you're 19. So when you think about, Tosh at 50, what does Tosh at 50 look like? What are you working towards?
Honestly, I don't really look that far ahead. I mean, I'm just enjoying the moment now. I mean, my goal obviously is to make tour one day and be able to compete against the best in the world, um, and yeah, just be a good person and show love to people, and I mean, show people this amazing country and be able to take them fishing. And I mean, part of the reason I love kayak fishing is just being able to share the unique experience
Mm-hmm.
of what kayak fishing is. And I mean, to see the smiles on people's faces when they catch their first roosterfish or
Yeah.
a trophy sized roosterfish that they've been working on for years and spending thousands of dollars to go fish in boats, and they come in a kayak for 4 hours and end up catching a trophy sized roosterfish. They're mind blown. So it's really cool to like show people that and show them that experience.
What are some experiences or places that you're trying to go to in life? What's on your bucket list right now?
Um, I'd love to go to like Fiji, Indonesia, and I mean those places just have really good fishing and surfing, and it'd be cool just to travel somewhere different in the world that I haven't been to yet and do both those things.
So I know you do yo-yo fishing, and I know you do live bait, plugs, and I know you dabble with the fly also. What's your fly fishing look like around here? Is that something that you're playing around with a lot, or just kind of
Yeah,
free lighted?
I honestly haven't done that much fly fishing here. I'm not the biggest fly fisherman. I do enjoy it. I did a trip to Brazil with my dad last year, I believe,
Mm-hmm.
to fish for peacock bass, which was super fun. I mean, we were catching 50 to 100 fish a day at Agua Boa Lodge. Super fun. Um, you just got to put a lot of time in here
Mm-hmm.
for fly fishing. I mean, you could definitely go out and catch snook and roosters and target different species, but it takes a lot of time, definitely.
Mm-hmm.
And um, I honestly find it more fun to go out with a hand line or
Yeah.
conventional and just have fun like that.
So do y'all? So a lot of times when I see people that are kind of goofing off with roosterfish on fly, they're chasing them actually from the beach. Does that happen here?
Um, Most of the people that end up coming here to fish on a fly do end up going in a boat and fishing. My dad has spent a lot of time fishing for a roosterfish on a fly, which I actually don't know if I don't think he has caught a roosterfish on a fly yet. I mean, it's definitely a challenge. You got to put a lot of
Mm.
time and effort into it. Um, but you can definitely go off the beach and target
Mm-hmm.
roosters on a fly.
I know that you have a lot of respect for your dad, and your dad holds a lot of respect in this area. I'm here on this trip. My dad's one of the people who are here. He was a fish and wildlife officer, and then he became a fishing guide. But he was really the one who gave me everything that I have in the outdoor world, the sacrifices he made, the love, the patience he showed me. Talk to me a little bit more about your relationship with your dad and why that's so important to you and things that he did that allowed you to really be the man you are today.
Yeah, I mean, just growing up and fishing with him all the time. I mean, it's nice having a relationship with your dad that you enjoy doing things with. I mean, we both have a passion for fishing. I feel like a lot of people in the world just don't share maybe the same passion as their parents do. So, I mean, sharing the same passion and enjoying the same things as my dad is really cool to be able to like go out and be like, hey, let's go fishing today on the boat, or let's go here and let's go on an adventure. So being able to share that experience and be able to do that with my dad is just awesome.
So I know that you love the handline fishing, and I heard that you actually have had some level of success with marlin on a handline. Can you tell me a little bit about that?
Yeah, so we're actually filming a project right now. Like I was saying, handline fishing is just like so much more of a challenge, and it's super unique and super simple. So me being able to, I mean, I've pretty much targeted every fish here on a handline and completed it. I did the sailfish. I've done big cubera snappers, big roosterfish. I mean, pretty much named the fish, and I've caught it on a handline. And the last goal that that's yet to be completed was the marlin on a handline. So right now we're filming this super cool project that hopefully we can catch a marlin on a handline. We actually did film about 6 months ago. Yeah, we did 4 days of fishing. It was pretty slow. We ended up getting one marlin bite, which I hooked up to it. It was super cool. Like, I knew it was going to be a challenge, and I never ended up getting a jump or anything with a marlin, but to be able to feel the power of the fish on a handline was just crazy. Like, it felt like being pulled by a bus. So,
yeah,
I mean,
I can't imagine. Yeah,
I can't wait to be able to get this project done.
To your knowledge, has anyone done it?
I know people. I know people have done it with super thick line, like 200, 300, 400 pound test. But what we're trying to do is complete it with a backing of 50 pound test and a top shot of 80. So be able to do it like proper with thinner line, and it's going to be a challenge.
Yeah. And you have some on video, right?
I do have some on video.
Yeah. I'd love to see it. Yeah.
Here, let me show you.
So who shot this too?
So this is two filmers. It's Calvin and Kyle.
Yep.
They're super cool dudes, and they're helping me film this project out of pocket right now.
Amazing shots too. I love all the storytelling with the water and.
Yeah, this project is not only based off of the marlin on a handline too. It's based off of like the relationship of me and my father too. Like, not that many people in the world have the best relationship with their father. So being able to have, being able to share with the world the relationship I do have with my dad and how unique it is pretty awesome.
Dude, it looks awesome, man. Yeah. I mean, this is such a wild place. You could spend the rest of your life just finding little challenges and little niches, and I'm excited. I'll make sure to include some footage of that on the YouTube, and man, that's insane.
Yeah, it's going to be awesome.
Man, I've been so grateful just for the opportunity to sit down with you and learn a little bit more from you, and really appreciate the time today. I love Costa Rica, and I'm excited to go chase some billfish, some yellowfin tuna. We're going to play around with some more roosterfish, but so grateful for you for taking us out this morning, showing us the way that you like to do it. I learned a lot, and thanks so much for coming on the show.
Yeah, thank you. It was amazing. I'm glad you guys had a great time this morning, and yeah, it was a pleasure.
Awesome.